Hi, my name is Kudus Malik, and I'm an attorney in Washington, D.C. And first of all, I just want to thank all three of you. It's such an honor for me to be at a function where all three of you are speaking, and I was so anxious to come here that I actually showed up here last week as well, on Monday. And I think that what the job that you guys are doing to try and remove misconceptions about Islam, and all three of you, I consider that to be a holy war, a jihad, and may God help you continue to be of help to you. The question I have is for Shaykh Hamza. You have publicly spoken on takfir, the practice prevalent amongst Muslim communities,
anathematization,
to try and declare other communities to be non-Muslim. And you've also gone publicly on record to say that you believe that Ahmadis are non-Muslim. My question is not really about the theological discussion around takfir, but once a community is declared non-Muslim, like the Ahmadiyya in Pakistan, do you think that Islam still allows the kind of criminal persecution of Ahmadis? So insisting that Ahmadis are non-Muslim, insisting that they can't use any Islamic terminology, saying that it's a trademark, forcing other Muslims to sign a passport form that says that they're non-Muslim. And the second question, very quickly, for Professor Esposito is that if there's ever a battle between religious freedom and ijma, the consensus, in Islam, who do you think wins? Thank you.
First of all, to answer the question, there's no such thing as collective takfir in Islam. You can't you cannot say all this group are non-Muslims. Takfir is done on individuals. And there's a trial, there's a whole process, they're asked questions. So the idea of saying people are kafir is totally against the Islamic tradition, first and foremost. Secondly,
so Hamza, for those of us who are on the outside, would that be like excommunication?
Excommunication,
okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
So in terms of the Ahmadiyya problem in Pakistan, it's a political problem. We know that, right? Because the Ismailis, who are very powerful in Pakistan, right, who don't pray generally, right, and have been anathematized traditionally, by the Muslims, they're not persecuted in Pakistan because they have very high, powerful positions. And so, again, we get back to it's all politics. And, as Bob Dylan said, we're living in a political world, so that's a problem, right? So I feel like, I'm against religious persecution. I think there's a reason why for the first 13 years Muslims were persecuted, so they could know and understand what it's like to be persecuted. Because when you're persecuted, you become empathic to other people that are persecuted. So that for me is very important. My ancestors came here fleeing religious persecution to the United States as Catholics, right? I also come from largely an Irish background, and if you want to weep tears of blood, read Irish history about the Irish persecution, right? So, everybody has their narrative. Everybody, except white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. But everybody has a persecution.
That's very Irish.
They have one, but it's false. Everybody has a persecution. Everybody has a persecution narrative. And if you can tap into empathy, which Jeremy Rifkin wrote an entire book on the importance of empathy as being foundational to human civilization, that we have to become more empathic as human beings. But this leads also to we have to, learn grammar so that we can communicate with each other, because we've got people that, and the internet is the greatest proof that nobody knows grammar anymore, because all you have to do is read comments down there. So obviously if you can't write a grammatically correct sentence, to comment on grammatically correct sentences, we have a serious problem, right?
But Hamza, I assume that, so often empathy is depicted as if it were the embracing of relativism. And of course, there's some people who do think that if you really want to be empathetic, you have to be a relativist. But I gather, even from the question, that obviously you reject that. I mean, you still think it's very important to you have to make a judgment about whether someone is or isn't.
We have criteria to do that. As religious people, we have very strong criteria. But desiring a sinner to leave his sin is empathy.
Yes.
It is. And even though people don't like that statement anymore, it's really been removed as an acceptable statement to love the sinner and hate the sin.
It happens to be true.
It's true. Yeah. For religious people, whether you believe in sin or not, those of us who do believe in it know how dangerous it is for the soul. because we believe in ensoulment. That we're more than material beings, we're spiritual beings, and the spiritual nature of the human being is profoundly affected by our behavior. I think, I really like Cormac McCarthy, but, Cormac McCarthy talks about, the complicity of our behavior and how it affects people. People use illegal drugs in this country. They are empowering the beheadings of drogadores in Mexico.
Absolutely
they don't
right.
think about it. The people that are consuming pornography are empowering the traffickers of pornography that are involved in pedophilic pornography. So in that way, we are all sinners. And that sin is having a profound effect on us as human beings.
Yeah. It's painful.
John,
to have
you
to,
had a second, second
that
half of the question.
My cousin Guido will take care of you. I think just two quick points. One has to acknowledge that historically part of the problem with institutional religion, including Catholicism, Protestantism, and Islam, is that often somehow human beings get to make judgments that only God should make. I think with regard to the question of freedom, I think that one should look at the past period in which one can talk about the extent to which Islamic law, in theory, not always in practice, okay, had far more of a pluralistic approach when it came to freedom of religion.
Yeah.
The challenge to Muslims today, and it is being faced, and Muslims are addressing it, not all, there is a vanguard, are dealing with the need to reinterpret in a new context. The problem is for ultra-conservatives, they don't do that. But for those of us of faith, of different faiths, we know those differences exist in all faiths. The differences between ultra-conservatives' approach to tradition and the way in which more, if you will, progressive voices do. You'll be okay.
Thank you. Needless to say, we could continue, and I wish we could continue this conversation. But we'll continue it another way.
With anything positive being said about progressive voices.
This has been a wonderful, wonderful panel. Thank you, Robbie, George, and friends.
Thank you.